welcome to another success story of mine. Today's guest is Jacqueline Marovac, originally Croat, who moved to a little village called Gračišće near Pazin. And she's been my client for several years now. We've done minor projects together and some bigger ones too, but I will let her tell you her perspective on everything, and you will see by the end of this conversation all the tiny and a little bit bigger things I had to help her out with. So the goal of this interview is to create somehow a compelling success story that highlights your journey, challenges you faced, how my business helped, how my services helped you, and some of the results you achieved. We've been cooperating quite a while. And so I made a short list, which is from maybe less important things to more complex ones. But before we get into this, if you can just tell us a brief introduction, like tell us a bit who you are, what you do, and how did you came to Croatia and what inspired you to invest and start to live here, and short bits of this.
Okay. Well, my name is Jacqueline Marovac. I'm actually Croatian by birth. I was born in Rijeka and lived most of my life outside of Croatia in different places like London, Canada, the US, Chile, Asia, France. I don't even remember all the places. I moved back to Europe from Chile in 2001 and started coming back to Croatia regularly. And finally, in 2008, realized the dream of buying this old ruin, which we renovated in Gračišće, and where we live now full-time since 2015. So quite 10 years this year, actually. So that's a little bit about me. I'm a clinical epidemiologist by training, working in biomedical research, where I work on different European and pharmaceutical-funded projects to work on mechanism of disease. And at the same time, we have a winery called Domaine Coquelicot with my husband, who is French. No one's perfect. Making French-style wine here in Istria.
And you also have a rental house in Ravni.
I actually have two. That's right. So I have a rental house in Ravni, which was a long story because bought that property actually before I moved back to Croatia, before back to Europe in 2000, and started renting that in 2014. And then thanks to Irena's help, I inherited an apartment in Rijeka, and she was very influential in helping me rent those two apartments, doing all the paperwork, etc. So yes, thank you.
Yes, also. Yeah, we did a little bit of things about Ravni, about these rental properties, finding the right people to work with. At the beginning, I was working as well for you, cleaning and maintenance, all of this stuff, finding the right people, waiting for the guests sometimes when you were not available.
Check in, check out, yeah.
Yes, and we did regarding the winery. Okay, I've been in those processes while you were building it. It's an amazing place where you hopefully will soon host some nice events, I hope. And that leads us to the more complex stuff, like dealing with customs, for example. This is something, it's an ongoing thing, which is very hard to comprehend even for us Croats, how it works, and for you as well. I can see that without my help, it would be quite difficult. Even for me, sometimes it was a nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine anybody else doing it other than you, because to have to deal with Croatian administration, in most things I can deal with, but customs is something which they speak another language, they change things daily, and in fact, I actually have some more work for you to help me with, but it's something that only you could do, very patient, very precise, and I'm very happy that you're helping us with that, because I really don't have the spirit to deal with them.
We also had some issues with electricity, because you wanted to have electric car charger. Yes. That was also an adventure a little bit with HEP, Croatian, like monopole company for electricity as well.
Well, I think anything that has to deal with bureaucracy in Croatia, you are definitely the person that I always tell people they need to reach out to, because yes, something so simple as having to trying to put floor heating in your house where you need more kilowatts and you have to deal with HEP to buy more kilowatts, or the customs, or dealing with getting papers to be able to rent a property because the property was built before 1965, etc. Having to find out what exactly is needed for an inspection to get categorization for a property. I mean, it sounds like it should be quite easy, but it's actually not. And then dealing with stuff for what do you call this? Taxes for retirement in other countries where you need to get a document and have it apostille. And you go, who do you call? Where do I start? You call Irena.
Yeah, this like joker call.
You don't know who to call? Call Irena.
Yeah, do you even remember maybe? I also couldn't remember really who hooked us up together. How did you get to me, and how did we start?
I think through Irena. I'm pretty sure it was through Irena when I said I needed someone to help me. And she said she recommended you. And that was really a turning point because I have such great souvenirs when we were digging the garden and cutting trees with chainsaws. And the Croatian machistic Balkan men couldn't believe the two women were playing with a chainsaw and cutting trees and wood and moving things around. So I think our adventure started there, and then in the same time, Casabora with the rental agency and the cleaning agency and everything. So I think it was thanks to Irena.
Yeah. Could you sum up a little bit like the biggest challenges? Because, okay, we didn't know each other from the moment you start to live in Croatia. I'm sure you had these sort of things that needed to be sorted out, administrative stuff, even before, after you came here, residency, after you established everything, your child was going to school and stuff like that. So what were your biggest challenges or pain points that you faced before finding out about a person like me?
So the biggest thing, which was I wish I'd known you back then, was, I'm not sure, well, I don't know how to put this. So in 2008, when we bought this property in Gracice, it was before Croatia was in the EU. And having a French husband was complicated because we bought the property, the two of us, not legally married. And the Croatian government, after 1 year, said, no, he cannot buy it. He's French, because this is a zaštićeno područje. So a protected zone. So we had to go back to plan B and build a company to be able to buy the property, the two of us, which actually in the end was interesting because that company that we formed, thanks to the clever advice of my cousin notary, who's like you, very visual and foreseeing things that can happen in the future, said, let's just put this company and put everything in there. You can import cheese, you can import wine, you can make wine, you can rent properties, you can do whatever. Yeah. So that's what we ended up doing. And we were able to buy the house with that. And then having the winery, of course, we were able to do that as well through that company, which was very, very useful. I think in terms of other things, getting my daughter registered here in school in Pazin was not so bad. But I think if I had to deal with stuff like a driver's license or opening a company here again, I really wouldn't know what to do. I think things were easier before we were EU. And I think now that anybody who tries to do something like that really kind of needs someone like Irena to hold your hand and take you through this process, because you will always discover that you are missing a document because they forgot to tell you. Or that because of X, you need Y. And because of Y, you need to go back to X.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you did try to solve all of these things on your own, or with the help with a cousin, or you never?
Well, the cousin started the company, and then that was pretty much mostly it. So we were able to do that then. And I think things were easier before we joined the EU. Now there's a lot of restrictions and a lot of requirements for different things. So, just the fact that we have a wine tasting room with only one toilet. We tried to open here in the village a wine bar some years ago, and we talked to everybody and went to Turističke zajednice. We went to many, many places, and they said, without 3 toilets, you cannot open it. I said, but this is a protected zone. This is a UNESCO zone. We cannot put toilets. We don't have room for 3 toilets. Everybody else has toilets of only 1 toilet. But that was before EU. So ever since then, the regulation changed. And I think things are much more difficult and more demanding now. So it's quite frustrating, I think, for a foreigner, even a local. I mean, I'm Croatian, but I lived overseas so many years. It's just difficult. Even opening a bank account, it can be daunting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand. I would like to touch on the point, like, how was your experience with working with me together? Like, how did you felt, with me, like following you? Did you had some trust? And how were the first steps that we took together? How it that, from the first time, of course, you didn't know me that well. And then, like, how it prolonged? Did you start to see the difference? And if you can share some specific, I don't know, moments or milestones when you really felt like, okay, things are starting to change because you have me on your side.
Experience that we had of building the garden in the wine cellar, which I think was pre-COVID or during COVID. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, me too.
We gained a lot of confidence, of course, because we realized we're very similar. We have similar energy levels, and I immediately realized you were a person I could trust. And I so much so that when I was not around, you were kind enough to take on the responsibility of being there to meet the guests. You knew perfectly how I wanted my house. You knew that I was maniatic, that the towels had to be the certain way, that when people walked in and saw the rental property, that it would be like I would do it as if I was there. So I really believe that I couldn't find anybody else who understood the level of detail and the importance for me that everything was perfect. So when the guests arrived, they knew that. And that was someone who was there to welcome them, who knew the system, that you have to take a picture of the passport and upload it into this system, that knew how to explain things and be in a kind and professional way. Because I think, obviously, that it's your vision, it's your work, it's your life that you put together to build this property, and you want these people who are paying money to have a great time. And so you want everything to be like when you're arriving to a property. Wow, this is perfect. Look at the fresh lavender in the room, the fresh roses, the towels on the bed, the hand soap, the welcome basket, everything. So I think I knew immediately that she was somebody I could trust. And even with money, I mean, there was money coming from tourists. There was for deposits, which you have to give back in the end. Absolutely, I had no doubt in my mind that I could trust to work with you, Irena.
Super. And how do you feel about living in all those countries? Did you ever felt like you also needed that kind of support in these other countries where you lived? This is what I had in mind as well.
Yes, I would love to have a French version of Irena because, technically I'm living in Croatia, but my company is one of my companies where I do my professional consulting work for medical research is a French-based company. And there's sometimes so many different things that you need to deal with, changing laws and things that I hate that part of stuff. I don't want to deal with it. I just would like to have a French Irena and say, can you call them and see what I need to do? Can you see why I need that? Could you perhaps try and find me 3 quotes for insurance? Because I don't have the time or want to do that. And I'm very happy to outsource that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I think that, I would have really benefited from having somebody to help me, to still help me in the French system, which is not as easy as the Croatian. I mean, I think just even coming here and being able to get a birth certificate, through this e-Građani system, which is still not the easiest thing to use. I think, sometimes when you have to do the paperwork online and it's not, of course, translated to any language other than Croatian, you definitely need someone like Irena because you can only do so much Google Translate with your phone over a document.
Yeah, it's true. E-Građani citizen system, it's still just available in Croatian language. And even for me, sometimes I find it hard to do specific things through it. You need to know the exact term, how they use it in this legal environment. And so it's still a learning curve for me as well. So I can imagine that it's not easy for somebody, even like you, who actually speak Croatian, but still it's hard. And for foreigners who don't speak the language, even worse. So did this kind of, having a person like me, did that change your perspective or approach on, or maybe open some opportunities how to do life and business in Istria in any way?
Sure. I think actually you're incredibly knowledgeable, and we spoke many times about different projects, about opening OPG to do certain things with some agricultural land I have, etc. And I think that I could do much more with you and with all the knowledge that you have and really expand on that. I'm just at a point in my life right now where I've got too much going on to be able to do that forward. I do think about it, and perhaps when I retire, I will reach out to you to say, okay, let's help me with this area here. But at the same time, I feel like it's more beneficial for those who really need that to live off right now to be able to contact you and do that kind of stuff, because I think it's not only for foreigners, but I think you're an incredible resource for Croatians as well. It's not easy to navigate these things. So anybody that has an idea of buying some land and doing a little project with an OPG and getting some financial support for equipment or for trees or animals, definitely they should talk to you, because you have the experience both with your goats and everything, but also with knowing the system. And that's not very easy. Knowing the system of what are the options of the different companies. Do I go with this? Do I go with that? You know, it's something that requires somebody who knows and has already experimented.
Yes, sure. I agree completely. So what would you say for those people who are going to, see those success stories that I will put online? What would you say to someone considering working with me or using my services, if you could sum it up?
I would say that you're a very holistic person, in that you're not you don't support only one thing. You can provide support across many different areas. And for an expat or for a foreigner moving to Croatia that needs help, maybe with school system or opening banks or opening companies or buying property, I think that you are a one-stop shop, if that makes sense. The one person to go to, because I think also that you're at a point that you know a lot. And if you don't know the answer to something, you know who to go to get that answer. And I think that the greatest thing about you is you're dependable, reliable. I know that if I give you something, it's going to get done and you will do the follow-up. And that for me in my job, which I have a problem with sometimes managing teams, is chasing people to do things. I don't feel like I need to ever reach out to you and say, hey, did you do that? Did you remember this or whatever? No.
Yeah.
I think that that's something which is invaluable, because obviously you pay somebody or you want their services so that you don't have to keep being on their back and following something up.
Yeah. So you can free up your time and make things moving faster, something that will move the needle and make your project done at the end. Okay, well, super. Thanks for sharing your story and your perspective. I will put down the links to your winery, of course, for every wine lovers, and your house in Ravni as well, because it's an amazing place to stay and have a nice view of Kvarner, and it's an amazing place.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes.